Just as a disclaimer, we want you to know that some of the movies that we will be reviewing were shot in a different time and era where people of race and sex were not treated equally. We understand this and hope you do too. The movies or anything that happened on the sets are not the views of this podcast or what this show is intended to be all about.
Exactly. And we want to give due diligence in presenting the movie and not the views of the cast or directors or anyone involved. But we also feel it's necessary to let the audience know some of the background information to get a feel for what was happening at the time of shooting the film. Again, we hope you understand that we do not agree with everything that went on, and we just want to give out the information. And with that being said, hope you enjoy the show.
There is a fifth dimension, beyond that which is known to man. It is a dimension as vast as space and as timeless as infinity. It is the middle ground between light and shadow, between science and superstition, and it lies between the pit of man's fears and the summit of his knowledge. This is the dimension of imagination. It is an area which we call the Twilight Zone. Infantry Platoon, U.S. Army, Philippine Islands, 1945. These are the faces of the young men who fight. As if some omniscient painter had mixed a tube of oils that were at one time earth brown, dust gray, blood red, beard black, and fear yellow white. And these men were the models. For this is the province of combat, and these are the faces of war.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Tragedy of Cinema presents the Twilight Zone Series. I hope everybody had a great Christmas and a Happy New Year. We are all glad that 2020 is now gone and this is now 2021 where there are endless possibilities. I'm your host, Jimbo, and yes, once again, I'm joined by the famous 80s E. 80s, how you doing?
What's up, everybody? Greetings from the fifth dimension. Glad to be back and enjoying a couple of episodes together. It's a good time.
So a little behind the scenes here. About, 2 hours ago, I said, hey, guess what? I'm getting ready to sit down and record some Twilight Zone episodes with ADZ, and we are just now recording like 2.5 hours later because of the audio issues. It's been so long that we had to resync everything back up where we were coming through each other's microphones and everything. So hopefully we got it all worked out and this goes smoothly because this is our second time recording this episode. The first time we recorded it was just so bad audio-wise, picking up interference and everything. But I think, and I hope we finally got all this worked out.
Exactly. It's been a long journey, but hopefully it is coming to an end and we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. But yeah,
you don't look so thrilled there.
No. Just as on a side note,
confident.
On a side note, we just enjoy this so much. I mean, if it was just us two talking and kicking back, and we could do this for hours anyway. So it's really it's really a labor of love. It's not really a problem. So we enjoy this so much.
No, we enjoy it.
Yeah.
We enjoy it. We talk about all kinds of older movies. We'll shoot each other clips or, hey, have you seen this movie? Or, hey, have you seen this movie? Oh, look what I added to my account. Look at this. We were talking about the infamous Dick Tracy movie. We were just talking about that, how long it's been since we've seen that movie. And guess what? I got it, and we watched it. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
But here we are. Back to the Twilight Zone series. This is our 19th one, Eric. 19.
Wow, I can't believe we've gotten this far. We actually... After our long hiatus, we need to dig in and get back to work apparently. But I'll go ahead with the title.
Do you
go ahead?
Do you remember what episode you actually jumped in and started? Because I don't think you were here for the
I
first
wasn't.
episode. Do you remember when you jumped in?
It might have been it's episode 3 or 4, maybe. I don't know offhand. It was somewhere in there. One through probably. I probably wasn't around 1 through 5, but I don't know. I jumped in there early somewhere.
All right, let's take this away. Let's get this show on the road.
All right. Well, we are at episode number 19, as Jimbo alluded to, and this is the Purple Testament is the title of this particular episode. It was in season 1, obviously, and it was directed by Richard L. Baer. Now, Richard L. Baer, will be someone that we will see many more times as we progress through the season and the series as a whole. This particular episode was written by Rod Serling. This has a lot of Rod Serling's fingerprints all over it, obviously. A lot of the story was taken out of his own personal experience and out of World War II. And then I've got some featured music here. Lucienne Morwack, Lud Gluskin, just for those of you who might be interested. The first original air date was on February 12th, 1960. And Jimbo, do you want to go ahead and take the cast? Do you have that in front of you?
Sure. There are some famous people in this episode. Probably the most famous is Dick York, who is famous for his role in Bewitched. He played Captain Phil Riker. Then we have William Reynolds, who played Lieutenant Fitzgerald, who does an outstanding job in this episode. Really well done. We have William Phipps. He is most famous. He plays the sergeant. He's most famous for the 1950s Disney's Cinderella, where he voiced Prince Charming. We had Barney Phillips. He played Captain E.L. Gunther. He was in I Was a Teenage Werewolf, where he played Detective Donovan. Then you had S. John Lawner. He was the Lieutenant Colonel. He was also in I Was a Teenage Werewolf. And he played Bill Logan. Then you had Michael Vandiver. He was Mad Dog from Batman, the 1966 television show, and he plays Smitty in this episode. You had Paul Mazursky, who was the orderly. You had Mark Cavell, who was the freeman. Warren Oates, who was the Jeep driver at the end. And you had Ron Masick, who was the harmonica man.
My favorite man, the harmonica man. He does a great job on the harmonica at the end of this episode.
So, Eric, let's go ahead and start. Let me give you the synopsis real quick, and then we'll go ahead and start talking step by step through this episode. The synopsis is, there is a soldier who can tell who is going to die just by looking at their face and noticing a shining glow on it.
All right. So the opening scene is a battlefield scene, and I'm not exactly sure if this is like maybe some stock footage that was taken from an earlier movie. Doesn't really the camera doesn't really like zoom in on any of the characters in our episode per se to really kind of trace an outline of their face or anything to see if it's actually them. But then we quickly move to the second scene, which is all of the soldiers from this infantry platoon, says Platoon U.S. Army 1945 in the Philippine Islands. They return from battle, and then as the Jeeps sort of roll into camp, we hear Rod Serling's narration sort of comes in. That is one distinction between season 1 and season 2. Season 1, usually, I think almost exclusively, Rod Serling is off camera giving his narration and monologues, but we'll get there eventually. But in season 2, he's in the scenes. He's planted a lot of times uniquely in the scenes as the story progresses. But so we come to the scene, and the soldiers. By the way, his introductory monologue is really quite poetic, and then, at the end of his monologue, we zoom in on one particular soldier's face, and the actors, even the extended actors, really capture the war-torn faces. I mean, they did a really good job of expressing on their faces, what war looks like and the toll that it takes. And I think that was something that Rod really wanted to express as he wrote this particular episode, because obviously, having gone through World War II himself, he understood everything there there really was when it comes to battle and war, and how it just, I mean, psychologically, it takes a toll on you physically, and all the different aspects. I think he really kind of captured in this episode, which made it one of my favorites. I know going forward, but Jimbo, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Well, Rod Serling did serve in the U.S. Army's, the 511th Parachute Infantry Regiment. He was in the 11th Airborne Division during the liberation of the Philippines, where this episode is actually set. So I thought he's taken something from his own life and he made it all about the place because he was familiar with it. And I think that's why he comes off so well, because he was there.
Yep, for sure. As we progress along in the episode, we meet the Dick York character, who is Captain Phil Riker, and he has a conversation with I don't even know if he's named. And is this William Phipps, the sergeant? I'm not even for sure, but they initially meet, and then we meet the second most important. Well, really, maybe you could say the lead character. You might even say that Dick York is like a secondary character, but we meet Lieutenant Fitzgerald, who is the person who has this unique ability to be able to, I don't know, what would you call the ability? A foreshadowing of someone's death, maybe, and he's able to determine someone's death.
You could almost say he's like a fortune.
Yeah, he's clairvoyant, maybe, or something like that. He's able to see someone's demise happen ahead of time, I guess. And so Riker and Fitzgerald, they have a conversation. They go back to Riker's tent, and they're throwing back some alcohol after a tough day on the battlefield. And that's when Fitzgerald sort of reveals to Riker that he has this ability. And he explains that he had written down the 4 guys that died in the battle on that day, the current day. He explained that he had written those gentlemen's names down, those soldiers' names, the day before. And he goes on and explains this unique ability, I guess you could say, to Riker. And one of the names that was written on the piece of paper was the last name Levy. And that's an interesting name, because that was actually the name of someone who served with Rod Serling actually in World War II. And the story behind Marvin Levy, who was an actual person, was that he actually he was good friends with Serling. And one day, I think they were talking back and forth. I think it was like on a beach or something like that. And Levy was delivering this comic monologue for the platoon. I guess Levy was kind of a jokester or whatever, and they were kind of under a palm tree, and overhead planes were passing by, and they were dropping crates of supplies, and it just so happened that one of those crates came crashing down and killed Levy instantly while he was talking to the rest of the platoon. And so that really stuck with Serling down through the years, and it was something that he felt strongly enough that he wanted to include and pay homage to the guy maybe in this particular episode. So I thought that was an interesting piece of trivia. Jimbo, did you have any comments? No?
No.
Okay.
Doing fine, John.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure you didn't want to have anything to add there. But so we're back to the episode. Serling and sorry, not Serling, but Riker and Fitzgerald are still having this conversation. And then what a good soldier would do when it comes to Phil Riker, he goes and he instantly wants to go and talk to the medical staff about Fitzgerald, because Fitzgerald he feels like he's having maybe a mental breakdown, maybe it's exhaustion. He's just seeing things out there on the battlefield, and he's just not in his right state of mind, maybe. And so he goes and talks to Gunther, Lieutenant Colonel Gunther, and he's like by the way, you'll see John Launer. He is in multiple episodes in the Twilight Zone again, so you'll see him down the line. in further episodes. So, they talk, and, Riker explains his concern. And meanwhile, Fitzgerald, we switch scenes, and Fitzgerald is he's at the bedside of one of his soldiers in his platoon. I think his name's like Smitty. And so Smitty's in the bed, and he's gotten injured in this previous battle. And as they're having a conversation, Smitty's head starts to glow, and Fitzgerald, obviously has this premonition again that he's going to die, that Smitty's going to die. And then, do you know what happens? Or are you watching alongside what happens?
Well, but I want to take a step back.
Sure.
When he was when Dick York, the character, went in and talked to the head guy, he was basically bringing up issues because he said, "Look, this guy is not all there. He's either fatigued or something like that." And the guy's like, "Look, I pulled up his records. He's never been wounded. He's never had any kind of fatigue. He's like the perfect soldier." So I thought that was really interesting. See how they were, he was trying to get him help if he needed help, but the guy's like, "Look, he's never had any of this stuff." So, so when he's sitting there talking to that guy and he dies, or when he looks at him, his face glows. The guy Fitz passes out. The camera angle. He's like, he just falls down. And the classic, he opens his eyes, it's all blurry, and it's the guy, and that's when he finds out that he's dead, just like that.
Mm-hmm.
So then you see Fitz walking down the hall, and this is where he starts having these really crazy conversations with some of his fellow soldiers.
Yeah, Fitz comes down the stair. By the way, this particular stairwell, not that it's
very famous.
Yeah, it's going to be used in a lot of forthcoming episodes. I think they used that prop over several episodes. But Fitz is obviously he's upset. And just let me back up. By way of, there was like a technical way that they made that glow. I guess they did like a freeze frame of the person's face or head. This might be interesting to some people, maybe not. And then they overexposed the film, and that's how they made that glowing. Because, remember, we're in black and white, so, the technical aspects were probably pretty primitive back in those days and what they could do. But this was kind of a neat little way. They overexposed the film, and that's what caused the glowing around the head, if anybody's interested. But so Fitz is obviously upset. He goes, and now he has an exchange with the Captain E.L. Gunther. Sorry, had a brain freeze there. So Gunther and him have a face-to-face conversation. And, he recommends that Fitzgerald takes like 2 weeks off, kind of like a or take a break, try to hit reset. And, Fitz is really upset, and he fires back, and he basically says, you don't understand, you don't understand why I'm having these things. You're just guessing. And, they kind of get into a heated discussion in which, Fitz leaves and he's angry. And
yeah,
go ahead.
I really like the part where he's yelling at him right here. And he's like, "Look, you walk 25 miles in your boots and you don't get a blister." He said, that's not normal.
Yeah.
He said something else along those, something else crazy like that. He's like, "That's not normal either."
Yeah.
He said, "So don't tell me that this is normal, that I'm doing this."
Right. So this is the next scene. Is we're back in the inside the tent, and this is kind of the meat of the episode, because as they're on another mission, the next mission that Riker is in charge of, they're going to go and secure like a bridge or something. And so Riker's, as he's given orders, Fitzgerald notices that Riker's head glows, which again is the clairvoyant way of like Riker is going to die in this next particular skirmish that they're going to be in.
Chain of events.
Yeah. And so they kind of argue back and forth, obviously Riker tries to say, "Look, these are just coincidences. I'm not going to die." But anyway, through the course of the conversation, Riker basically takes off his wedding ring and he leaves some pictures, like maybe his wallet or something. He leaves pictures of his kids and his wife there back at the tent in case something were to happen, just to maybe sort of ease Fitzgerald's mind or to prove that he's wrong.
I also
Go
think
ahead.
I also think that he thinks that maybe this guy is for real. Maybe he really can tell.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think this is the point where, because if you look at his face, it's not like, hey, I'm just going to do this out of the kindness of my heart in case something happens. It's like, well, maybe what if
he's right?
You know, I want my wife and family to have my heirlooms, you know, and my pictures and all that, and let them know that I was thinking about them at the end. Because there's coincidences, but when it happens more than once, it's not a coincidence anymore.
Here's the $1 million question, and this is sort of a rabbit trail side note, but even though this question was posed as I was reading, and then like some other things, like other podcasts I listen to, but anyway, even though he sees the glowing head or whatever, is it like inevitable? Like, does that mean it's set in stone? Or like, say Riker decides that he wasn't going to go on that mission. Say, you know, Fitzgerald said, all right, well, I've seen it. You're going to die. But then he decides, well, you know what? I'm going to end around it. I'm going to stay in the tent and I'm not going to go. Would he be spared?
Actually, I brought this up the first time we recorded.
Did you?
And it was at the end of the episode.
Okay.
And my thing was, if he wouldn't have went, would a sniper have taken him out?
Right.
Or something, because he stayed at the camp.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Same thing later on in the episode. I'm not going to get to it yet. But when that certain change event happens at the end, would it have mattered if they would have played that situation out different? Even though they both had the glow on their face. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. If he didn't decide to go with that guy and went the other way, would they have both died anyway?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Is there a way to prevent the glow? Obviously, Fitzgerald thinks so, because he's like, I can't let you go on this mission. But there's nothing that says if you go on this mission or you don't go on this mission, either way is the way you're going to go.
Yeah, that was my question. Is it set in stone? Like, once he sees the glow on the face, and that sort of catapults us to the next scene where all the soldiers are, you know, prepping to go to battle and to secure this bridge, and they're all standing around and they all ask Fitzgerald, "Is it me? Is it me? Am I going to make it? Am I going to?" You know, one by one they come up to him and they ask him, "Do you see the glow on my face?" You know, because it almost seems like even the company has accepted, like, if he sees the glow on your face, it's like inevitable that death is going to come to you. Like, it's inescapable, I guess.
Well, let me ask you a question. When they return here, I don't remember them saying this. I just watched this before we started recording. Did anybody else die on this mission besides the Riker?
You know, I don't think so. I think Riker was the only one. I think he was the only casualty.
I mean, I don't that's what I'm saying. And here's another question I have for you. He saw the glow when they were in the tent together, right?
Mm-hmm.
So at the end, when the one guy pulls him up, he's like, "Hey, you got this ability. Is it this? Is this? We hear you can see." And he pans over everybody again. Mm-hmm. He gets to Riker, and it's not glowing.
Mm-hmm.
So why isn't it not still glowing?
Oh, I don't know. That's another good question. Maybe it only happens once. I don't know. Maybe he only gets that clairvoyance once, and then that's it. I don't know. That's a good question. So, yeah, you alluded to this part where they're returning from the mission, and then this guy, I don't even remember his name. He makes a really small part. He's like a general, maybe. He comes in and asks about the mission. He's a lieutenant, I think. And then Fitzgerald has to, you know, give the casualty count. I think you are right, Jimbo. I think there was only Riker was the only one that died. And then the doctor comes, Gunther.
Yeah, the
doctor comes in.
He says we lost one.
Go ahead.
He said we lost one man.
Okay.
That's what he says.
Yeah.
So
Riker comes to find out from the medical doctor, E.L. Gunther, that he's been reassigned or something. Is that what happens here? And so he's packing up all of his gear. Go ahead.
But I think you're missing an important part.
Okay.
back when he's talking to the general or whatever, and he tells him that, hey, the only thing you guys came under was sniper fire, and he's like, yeah, we only lost one man. This is when he looks down and he sees that paper or the pictures of kids and the wedding ring and all that, and something. Once the other guy leaves, Fitzgerald actually pulls out the dog tags of Riker and sets them there in the pile. So I thought that was a really, really nice homage to his former commander or whatever.
Yep. So Fitzgerald is packing up all of his gear, and he encounters the Jeep driver, I think. Well, before that, let me back up. This is an important part. As he's packing up his shaving kit and his mirror that's on like a tripod, he sees a glowing face in his reflection. It's him. He's the glowing face this time. So obviously we can deduce that he's not going to make it to wherever he's going. But it's like he knocks the mirror onto the ground and it cracks into a bunch of pieces, and then he sees his reflection in the pieces of the fragments of the mirror that are lying on the ground. But it's weird, like Fitzgerald almost seems like he's accepted, it's almost like a cruel irony or something, that he's going to die in this way, and he knows his own death. And it's almost like he kind of accepts it in some regard.
Right, but I think more than that is when the mirror shatters on the ground, and there's three pieces. Mm-hmm. You see in his eyes, I think it's a torment for him. I don't think he wants to carry this burden anymore. He can't live with himself, basically, and I think that's why he accepts it. He doesn't want the burden of looking in people's faces and telling them this.
Yeah.
The news that, hey, you're next.
Yeah.
You're not going to make it. And then he's like, well, I'm going to just accept my fate because I don't want to deal with this anymore.
Yeah, that's a good point. I never thought of it that way. That's a good point. And then maybe that's why he's so accepting. He doesn't try to fight it. He just, and then obviously we come to the next scene, and he looks to the Jeep driver, and the Jeep driver's face obviously has a glow on it as well. And then the Jeep driver makes a comment like, well, it's only like 4 miles down the road or something. We should be there in X amount of time. And Fitzgerald says, no, it's not going to happen. In essence, I'm paraphrasing, but
right. And something else, I don't know if you caught this, but when Fitzgerald's, he was sent over there to pack up all of his stuff, he doesn't take anything with him except his helmet. Once he knows that he's the one, he just puts that helmet on and he gets in the truck. Yeah. He doesn't pack anything up with him. Yeah. He's not going to need it. You know what I mean? And I thought that was a really cool part too.
Then we're reaching the end of the episode, and I can't remember this gentleman's name. Well, the Jeep driver was Warren Oates, and then you mentioned this earlier, but Ron Masick is the harmonica player, and he has a conversation with one of the officers as the Jeep departs, and as he's playing really well on the harmonica, this nice little tune, we hear an explosion. We hear an explosion in the background, and that leads us to believe that was the Jeep that exploded on their way, that was carrying Lieutenant Fitzgerald and the Jeep driver.
It was thunder.
Oh yeah.
It's thunder.
Right. I couldn't remember what they thought it might be. Was that thunder? Yeah, but it wasn't thunder. Yeah. We all know that it was an explosion, and that the Jeep has, done for, along with the 2 occupants inside. But anything else? I got a little bit here on. Had a little bit here on Dick York. Just a little background. Do you want to go over that a little bit? Well, just a quick little bit of Dick York. Did you have anything trivia wise you wanted to add?
Before we get this, let me throw some of this other trivia out here. And I don't know if you caught that, but when Rod Sterling starts his final thing talking about the Purple Testament and all that,
yes,
it fades back to the 3 broken pieces on the ground of the glass.
I didn't catch that.
Yeah, check that out while I'm reading this other stuff. I thought that was pretty good. So, one thing is, the night of the planned air date, a plane carrying Richard Bear and William Reynolds crashed in the Caribbean Sea, injuring both, not seriously though. It's believed that during their swim to land, they discussed the episode that night, and Bear requested Reynolds not to look at him. He later admitted that He commended Buck Houghton's decision to reschedule rather than use the incident for publicity. So they could have really milked that for the publicity for this episode.
Yeah, that was a crazy story.
Right. The title is taken from Richard II, Act 3, Scene 3. He has come to open the Purple Testament of Bleeding War. However, Rod Serling incorrectly claims in his narration that the line comes from Richard III, when it was actually Richard II.
And that opening line or the closing line that he leaves, I'm still trying to figure out what he is to come to open the Purple Testament of Bleeding War, what that actually means. I'm no Shakespeare expert, but
we will. Let's talk about that at the end. I got a couple other things that we'll get to that at the end. So Dean Stockwell was the initial choice for Lieutenant Fitzgerald, but had to turn it down due to a schedule conflict. He eventually appeared in the Twilight Zone: A Quality of Mercy in 1961, which has a similar setting as well as another William Shakespeare-based title. Dick York says, "None of us is a mind reader." York later stars in the Twilight Zone: A Penny for Your Thoughts in 1961, in which his character gains telepathy.
That's a good one.
This episode takes place in the Philippines in January 1945. Near the end, a wounded soldier plays the harmonica. The tune is from Dvorak's Symphony No. 9, From the New World, a second movement, a passage that is sometimes sung as Going Home, which I thought was really interesting that they're playing Going Home and they end up dying. I thought that was very interesting. Captain Riker and Lieutenant Fitzgerald are wearing their insignia. Officers serving on the Pacific Front made a point not to wear this because it identified them as high priority targets for the Japanese snipers. So they wouldn't just be proudly wearing those out there because a sniper would take them out. So here we go. Let's talk about the Purple Testament, if you will. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Give it to me.
Here's what I came up with. Purple. The color purple usually always signifies dignitaries, kings, royalty. Okay, most leaders are also the ones who declare wars. It doesn't come from just the people; it's mostly from the leaders. So, purple, we know, in the internal of your body, when the blood is your blood's really purple, if you will, before the oxygen makes it red. Some people say it's blue, but it's more purplish than it is. Okay, so my question is, when he says, what was this? What's that? Give me that thing again about the bleeding heart. What's it say?
The line is, "He is come to open the Purple Testament of Bleeding War."
Okay. Testament is mainly used in the Bible. It's basically just an account.
Yeah.
Okay. So when they say that he has come to open the Testament of the Bleeding War, whatever it was, my thing is, he from the very opening, Fitzgerald, he had this problem, and they were at war anyway. And the only way to testify was to see those visions of the faces, and he knew that they were going to die. So he was recording this stuff, if you will, as a testament. Man, I got to write that quote down because it's bugging me now. My mind went to a whole other different place.
Yeah.
Oh, here it is. He has come to open the Purple Testament of Bleeding War. So. When he says is he talking about Fitzgerald?
Yeah.
Is he talking about God?
Yeah.
Is he talking about maybe the government?
Yeah,
I don't know. It is from Shakespeare. We know this,
right.
But as far as an explanation, you can go online and you can search this quote out. And I went down that rabbit hole one time for a couple hours, and I still came out not knowing a thing about it.
That's kind of,
you know what I mean?
That's kind of where I'm at with the whole thing. It's like Shakespeare on its own is hard enough to try to dig through and to pull out all the meanings and symbolisms and all of that, let alone, and he's obviously Serling he's applying it to his particular screenplay that teleplay that he's writing in this episode. So yeah, the trouble comes into when you're trying to marry those two together. Like, how does Richard II fit into this episode? Obviously, he thought enough of it to add it as a tagline in his monologue. So yeah, that's the difficulty.
But he must not have thought too much about it because it actually came from Richard III, not Richard II.
Yeah.
So he must not have liked it too much. But my thing is, I think all in all, it's probably just a verse to fit into William Shakespeare's poetry. I mean, that's what I'm going to go with. It was just a cool thing.
Yeah, maybe just a cool tagline a throwaway line that he just decided to throw in the episode. Yeah.
It's totally meaningless, but yet here we are some 40 years later, 50 years later, still talking about trying to decipher it.
Yeah.
So if you want to go ahead and throw out some stuff, you said Dick York, right?
Yeah, just real quick. Obviously, I think you mentioned this early. Wow, we're 32 minutes already. And you mentioned earlier that he's most notably remembered for his role as Dick York, as Darren. Darren in Bewitched. Yeah, sorry about that. And he actually had to leave the show. There were two Darrens, obviously Dick York and Dick Sargent. Dick Sargent took Dick York's place in later years, but he actually injured his back, and that's the reason why he had to leave the popular series Bewitched. And it happened on the set of the film They Came to Kedora. Dick was seriously injured during a railroad handcar scene. He and Gary Cooper were propelling a handcar down a railroad track with the other men when he accidentally lifted up on the mechanism without his comrade's help, and he wrenched his back, tearing muscles along the right side of his back, and for him it was the beginning of the end. He later grew addicted to painkillers and struggled valiantly, can't get that word out, for another decade before retiring in 1969. I guess it was a problem that he never really addressed, and he just kind of, went on with life and never really got his back looked at, and it ended up costing him quite severely. And then like in 1976, he basically was impoverished and he was on welfare for a time in the mid 70s. So here's this, great actor of the, 50s and 60s. And it's just, and a penny for your thoughts. That's we're going to get to that episode, but he plays a brilliant part in that particular Twilight Zone episode. But just little side notes about Dick York. I think he was a really great actor, which a lot of these guys that come through the Twilight Zone are great in their own right, but actually experienced a certain level of success in other television shows. But it was just a shame that his acting career might have gotten cut shorter than what it was, simply just because he didn't go get checked out after that movie. But anyway.
So, Eric, all along we have been ranking these as where you place them in your top five. If you liked the episode, you didn't like the episode. I'll let you start because I know we have difference of opinion on this episode.
Do we?
Your face right.
Do we?
Your face right now says it all. So go ahead, Eric. Take it away.
It's been so long since we've done an episode. It's hard to remember where they're ranked. I think Time Enough at Last. Obviously, that's one that's going to rank right up near the top. In season one, if we're just doing by seasons, if season one is standalone, I think so far Time Enough at Last, it's still up. This one, you said we're going to disagree. I don't know, man. It just seems like my mind's a little fuzzy. I would say this because of here's my reasoning. Because of how personal it was to the real life of Rod Serling, I think you have to give it some credence. It has to be near the top or maybe in the top five just because the story paralleled his own life and so much of himself was obviously poured into this episode. That's why I would rank it higher than others. That's my best explanation. Season 2, we talked about this before. Fear not, but season 2 is going to take in my opinion, it's going to take quite a bit of a drop off, but we'll get there at a later date. But season 1's awesome so far.
Okay, I'm gonna disagree with you.
Okay,
and here's why. Number one, this is a TV show. Nobody knows that this was based on Rod Serling's life when they're watching this.
True.
So why are you going to put it up there? If you didn't know it was about his life, would you have put it up there that high? Because you just said the reason I'm doing this is because I know the background and why it was placed up.
Honestly, coming in cold, probably not. I probably wouldn't rank it up
Right.
there. It's a cool, nice little twist in the clairvoyant twist, and all of that. Probably not. If I didn't know a lot of the background, I probably wouldn't rank it as high.
Right. Was it a good episode? Sure. It was. It was an okay episode. It was the classic Twilight Zone. You know what I mean? But as far as the classic Twilight Zone twist, I don't think there was really a twist. You could see where this was going to go right from the start. So that's where I think I had a problem with it. And not that it was bad. It was just not one of my favorites.
I'm telling you though, compared to some season 2 episodes, this thing is gold. This thing is television gold.
I remember I know what one of your favorite one was. It was one with what was it? The airplane pilot that disappeared from in the clouds and came back.
Yeah, well, I changed my mind on that one.
So thank you. I was right on that.
Yeah,
one too,
that one's fallen in rankings in recent days. Yeah.
But that's why I like doing this podcast, because sometimes you bring up some points that I hadn't noticed, and sometimes I bring up points that you hadn't noticed when you first watch it. You're like, oh, this was a great episode, and then you watch it again because you didn't get the recording right. And you're like, maybe it wasn't as good as I thought it was.
Good point.
So there you have it. That is the Purple Testament, episode 19. Depending on how late this is, when we get this all edited and everything. We may be doing another one right now. We're going to talk that over. There will be episode 20, Elegy. We got one of the most famous television doctors on it in it of all time.
Yeah.
From Little House on the Prairie, Doc Baker. So, Eric, you got any final thoughts on this episode before we wrap up?
Just wanted to slip maybe something. I thought maybe this might be an idea, and hopefully I'm not coming at you out of left field, but if any of our listeners out there, obviously we're going to miss things that you might notice. If you want to send us an MP3 audio and send it to the tragedyofcinema@gmail.com, that would be awesome way for you to interact with us. Because, we just love doing it. We could sit and talk back and forth like this for hours, because we enjoy it. But we want to know what you think. And one cool way maybe to send your feedback is to either send us an MP3 clip like we've done, like Jimbo, you've done in other episodes, movie episodes.
It was the Lost Boys.
Yeah, the Lost Boys. Or send us an email or anything like that, because we would love to have the feedback, and we really enjoy doing it, and hopefully you enjoy it too. Like I've said before, we just enjoy doing this kind of stuff, and hopefully an overflow of that would be that you enjoy listening as well, and that's our aim here as we go through these episodes.
And I think for all you Muppet fans, eventually when me and Eric retire, we're going to be like Statler and Waldorf that set up in the balcony and just make fun of people. And that's what we're going to be doing about TV shows. They're just some of my favorite people. But we've rattled on long enough. It's good to be back. Hopefully we can get back on a schedule where we're releasing these at least once a week, maybe 2 a week, because there's a lot more to get through. So we're glad we're back. I hope you're glad we're back. Eric's glad we're back. I went through some kidney stone surgery, and it was terrible. And my dad had some stuff going on, so it's been a rough ride at the end of 2020. But 2021's looking good. So thanks everybody for listening. And I think this episode's coming to a close, and that's a wrap.
And cut.
From William Shakespeare, Richard III, a small excerpt. The line reads, "He has come to open the Purple Testament of bleeding war." And for Lieutenant William Fitzgerald, A Company, 1st Platoon, the testament is closed. Lieutenant Fitzgerald has found the Twilight Zone.